Hey everybody, I'm Cabot Phillips with the Daily Wire. It's Thanksgiving week, and that means Americans of every stripe are taking time to set aside their political differences and offer thanks for the blessings of family, freedom, and America. Actually, no, it's 2020. That means everything, and I mean everything, has to be politicized. Everything politicized, you got that, okay. So before we continue, today is Black Friday, and that means our Black Friday deal is back. That's right, get 50% off a Daily Wire membership with code DW50. Head over to dailywire.com/subscribe or click the link in the description below. Take advantage of this offer while you can. 50% off your membership with code DW50. You may have thought that coming into November, Thanksgiving was nothing more than a time for you to give thanks or spend time with your family and enjoy the blessings of living in the freest society that's ever been created while gorging yourself on pumpkin pie and eating to the point of no longer being capable of standing. But you're wrong. That's your ignorance talking. We don't have time for all that spending quality time with family and being grateful crap. Because Thanksgiving is, more importantly, a time to reflect on the abhorrent white supremacist country we live in while feeling guilty about the actions of men and women 400 years ago. Or at least that's what Thanksgiving is for these people. Today, we're counting down the worst Thanksgiving takes of the season. First up on the list is who else but CNN. They recently ran a piece entitled, "You Have Permission to Not Be Thankful This Thanksgiving." I personally love this headline because it implies that CNN thinks you need their permission to be thankful. I appreciate that, CNN. The article says, quote, "In true fake news fashion, the original Thanksgiving story reeks of propaganda, a tale we take at face value to feel good about American history and to stuff our faces. In reality, the story of Thanksgiving does nothing more than paint American lipstick on the proverbial colonial pig, hiding the true barbarism of a time when white men first set foot on the land that they would go on to claim." The article goes on to say, there was no turkey, no ubiquitous kumbaya. In fact, the only thing that was widespread between America's earliest settlers and the Native Americans was a deadly contagion that disproportionately took out people of color. Sound familiar? Maybe the first Thanksgiving has more in common with this year than ever before. Many emotions rise to the surface, but gratitude is not one of them. This article really digs deep in the liberal bag of tricks, pulling out a COVID reference and a veiled allusion to white supremacy in a 30-second span. You gotta hand it to them. Though I shouldn't have been surprised, it's not a CNN article unless white people are blamed en masse for horrible atrocities committed against minorities. Not wanting to be outdone in the fierce competition for who can most vehemently denounce a holiday beloved by millions is Mike. They published an article entitled "The Pandemic Made Me Rethink Thanksgiving," where the author argued in part, quote, "We need to reckon with the reality of Thanksgiving. Not only does it spit in the face of indigenous people, it essentially celebrates white people building a country founded on liberty and justice for all, a flat-out myth that the election, ongoing struggles for racial justice, and pandemic have only further laid bare. As we fight for progress and to protect and empower our most vulnerable communities, I wonder, does a holiday like Thanksgiving fall in line with our efforts?" Bravo, Mike. Not only were you able to find a way to attack the Pilgrims for their treatment of Native Americans, I mean, that's old news at this point, that's been done. You found a way to make your hatred of Thanksgiving focus on America's unique promise of liberty and justice for all. That's the problem that you have, is the whole promise of liberty and justice for all thing. Double points for creativity, Mike. You made the list. If you've spent any amount of time on Instagram, you've probably seen your friends sharing stupid infographics on their stories. If you aren't familiar with them, they're posts claiming to offer concise, factual summaries of current events and political issues. They're almost always hilariously biased, and they're almost always written in a font that resembles what would happen if your 14-year-old sister discovered the art of calligraphy. They have titles like "The Truth About Transgenderism" or "The Second Amendment Explained." A popular Instagram infographic making the rounds this week claimed to explain Thanksgiving and why it's so oppressive. It reads in part, "Thanksgiving is a celebration of white supremacy. It is necessary to maintain the fantasy that is settler colonialism by gaslighting those whose lands you unjustly occupy. This so-called country, I guess we're not a real country, is based on three things: the genocide of indigenous people for our lands, the enslavement of black folks to build on that land, and the erasure of both of those histories to gaslight us into submission." To be fair, the account is literally called The Indigenous Anarchists, so I don't know how high of a bar we should really have for them. They are pretty open about what kind of content they produce. I also love how they refuse to spell the F word. They use a V instead of a U. Like that's where the line is. We're fine calling America a country founded on racism. We're fine calling our founding fathers white supremacist, but using the F word, that is a bridge too far. Good to know the indigenous anarchist wants to keep their content child-friendly. Another place striving to tailor their terrible Thanksgiving content towards children is our education system. We all know how dangerous it would be for our youth to think Thanksgiving was nothing more than a season of gratitude and love amongst family members. Far too dangerous. That can't stand. But thankfully, elementary schools around America are putting an end to that, as reported by the Star Tribune. Inspired by the nation's reckoning with systemic racism, schools are now scrapping and rewriting lessons that treated Native Americans as a footnote in a story about white settlers. Instead of making pilgrim hats, students are hearing what scholars call hard history, the more shameful aspects of the past. In Arlington, public schools near Boston, students until recently dressed annually in colonial attire. Now taboo, the costumes were abolished in 2018, and the district is working to expand and correct classroom teachings on Native Americans, including debunking Thanksgiving myths. Parents, you can rest assured tonight knowing that your 6-year-old will no longer have the audacity to think Thanksgiving is something to be celebrated. Now, they'll still be learning about gender fluidity and filling out LGBTQIA plus coloring books, but they'll be safe from the evils of Thanksgiving. They might still have the audacity to dress up in a costume for a school play, as the Tribune points out. Change has been slow and spotty, they say, and many schools cling to insensitive traditions, including costume dramas and paper headdresses. My personal favorite part of the statement is the use of costume dramas to describe an elementary school play. It's not a costume drama, it's just a bunch of 6-year-olds running around in a papier-mâché headdress and pilgrim outfits. But to these people, that's a costume drama, has to go. Good to know. Our next entry on the list comes from Rosa Clemente on Twitter. It's short and sweet, saying simply, retire thanks-taking, it is time. Now, if you're not sure who Rosa Clemente is, her Twitter bio says, and I quote, the first Black Puerto Rican Afro-Latina to run for vice president of the Green Party. I truly cannot tell if this is a joke or not, but regardless, almost being vice president of the Green Party is a more impressive accomplishment than coining the phrase thanks-taking. Although technically her tweet says to retire thanks-taking, which would mean don't use thanks-taking and instead use Thanksgiving, so maybe I actually agree with her. Thanks, Rosa. Coming up next on our list is the USA Today. Their presence on this list might be a surprise to some, mainly because a lot of you probably forgot they existed, but they are still kicking, and it's a good thing they are, because otherwise we'd be deprived of takes like this. After a summer of racial reckoning, is America ready to learn the truth about Thanksgiving? This article is special because it takes a bold step towards totally revising established history to try and claim the Pilgrims weren't actually coming to America to flee religious persecution. It says, many white Americans hold it very dear, the idea that the main impetus for colonization was the search for religious freedom. If you ask the general public, even educated people, that's the most common explanation. It's not right. Well, it actually is right. According to the official historians at the Plymouth Museum, which is a Smithsonian affiliate, quote, despite Holland's toleration, danger loomed. The Pilgrims were English subjects, and their religious activities were illegal in the eyes of the English crown. Moreover, the 12-year truce between Holland and Spain would expire in 1621, threatening a resumption of hostilities. In other words, yes, actually they did flee religious persecution, and they did come to America so they could practice their religion freely. Despite the author's inaccuracy here, they shouldn't be too down on themselves. After all, they still hand out Pulitzer Prizes to people pushing ridiculous revisionist history. As long as it's anti-American revisionist history, of course. And that's our list. If you're looking for a subtle way to tell your friends or family that they have bad Thanksgiving takes, you could confront them at the dinner table, or you could just send them this video and save yourself the trouble. If you think we missed some awful takes, comment below so we can give them the dishonor they deserve. And before you go, don't forget to check out our Black Friday deal. Get 50% off a Daily Wire membership with the code DW50. This is a serious discount, guys. So if you've been on the fence about getting a Daily Wire membership, this is your chance. That's dailywire.com/subscribe, or click the link in the description to get 50% off your membership with code DW50. Though it may be unpopular elsewhere, we here at the Daily Wire wish you and yours a very happy and blessed Thanksgiving. May your hearts be warm, your stomachs full, and your takes hot. I'm Cabot Phillips. Thanks for watching.